Hello everyone. Today in this session I will discuss with reference to the second part of the chapter titled Reproduction in Plants and Animals. And today in this session I will particularly deal with the details of sexual reproduction. Yesterday I have discussed with you the reproduction can be categorized into two main types on the basis of number of parents involved. On the basis of number of parents involved, the reproduction can be said to be asexual or sexual. In asexual reproduction, only a single parent is involved, whereas in case of sexual reproduction, there is involvement of two parents. I want to say sexual reproduction is biparental in contrast to monoparental nature of asexual reproduction. And in the sexual reproduction, there are two mandatory processes which are lacking in the asexual reproduction, and these are meiosis and fertilization. Meiosis and fertilization are the two important attributes of sexual reproduction. They are not found in the asexual reproduction. Meiosis is there during the sexual reproduction for the formation of gametes or gametogenesis. And due to meiosis, the gametes will have half of the number of the chromosome as found in the parent species. It means that the meiosis is responsible for maintenance of the chromosome number of the species in the process of sexual reproduction. And sexual reproduction is advantageous in contrast to asexual reproduction because sexual reproduction mixes the features of the two parents and hence it introduces variations in the young one. The young ones which are formed by sexual reproduction, these are particularly referred with the name of young ones, or they may be referred with the name of offsprings. In contrast to the gametes or clone during asexual reproduction. And the young ones or offsprings of sexual reproduction, they are not identical to the parents. They may be showing some better feature in contrast to their parent species. And the plants and animals which are showing the sexual reproduction, they include the higher plants as well as the higher animals. And in case of multicellular plants as well as animals, particularly the process of sexual reproduction can be cited and it is much more elaborated. In the higher plants, primarily for the purpose of sexual reproduction, flowers are formed. The flower is the name of modified shoot which is specialized for sexual reproduction in the plants. And the sexually reproducing plants, they can be further grouped into the three main categories, that is annual plants, biennial plants and perennial plants. In the annual plants, life cycle get completed in the one season or within 1 year. In the biennial plants, the life cycle get completed in the 2 seasons or in the 2 years. And in the perennial plants, the life cycle get completed in the many seasons or in the many years. In case of annual and biennial plants, there is a clear-cut distinction between the vegetative, reproductive, as well as the senescent phases of the life cycle. That is, in one season, they may show the vegetative growth, and in the second season, they may show reproductive growth. In the reproductive season, they will form the flowers or they will form the structures which are helpful in the sexual reproduction process. And in the perennial plants, many seasons or years they have been utilized for vegetative growth, and in one season, the flowering takes place. Flowering means the sexual reproduction takes place after the acquisition of maturity in the perennial plants after passing through a number of periods of vegetative growth. And in case of some plants, there is a unusual flowering. For example, in the bamboo species, flowering takes place only once in their lifetime, and approximately after 50 to 100 years of their vegetative growth. And thereafter they will produce large number of the fruits, and finally the plant die. And in case of another plant species named as Strobilanthus kunthiana, flowering takes place only once in the 12 years. And you may see in the slide the flowering in the bamboo plant as well as the flowering which takes place in case of the plant, namely Strobilanthus kunthiana. And in case of the animals, the life cycle begins with the formation of zygote in the sexually reproducing species. I want to say in all higher multicellular plants and animals, the life history begins with the formation of single-celled structure which is called as a zygote. Zygote is the product of sexual reproduction, and this zygote undergo development. Finally, the embryo stage is formed, or larval stage is formed, or juvenile phase is formed, and thereafter the growth may takes place within the body, and finally the adult stage or maturity is achieved. And after getting the maturity again, the process of sexual reproduction begins, and process of sexual reproduction normally begins with the formation of gametes by the plant or animal species. In case of plants, the gametes which are formed during the sexual reproduction, they are technically referred with the name of pollen and ovule. And in case of animal species, the gametes which are formed, these are known as spermatozoons or sperm, and ovum or egg. And in certain animal species, the egg is large in size, it is macroscopic. We can exemplify with the birds and reptiles. In case of the birds and reptiles, the egg is quite larger in size. And I think so, you know that ostrich egg is the largest cell in the living world. Egg is a single cell. And the females of placental mammals, including the human beings. Placental mammals are those animals in the development of whom the placenta is formed. They exhibit cyclic changes within their reproductive organs like ovaries, accessory ducts, and hormones. And the cyclic changes within them, they are referred with the name of estrous cycle in case of non-primates mammal like cow, sheep, rat, deer, dog or tiger, and it is called as a menstrual cycle in case of primates like monkeys, apes and human beings. The cyclic changes in the reproductive tract primarily takes place in the females, and this prepares the ovaries for the liberation of egg or ovum. Then furthermore, on the basis of breeding season, the mammals or animals, they can be classified into two main groups. One are called as the seasonal breeders or temporary breeders or discontinuous breeders. And the second group is referred with the name of continuous breeders or permanent breeders. Seasonal breeders are those kinds of the animals which breed only during a particular season of the year. They cannot breed through the year. And in the favorable season, which is a reproductive season, for example, rainy season in case of frog and summer season in case of the birds is the breeding season. During the particular breeding season, the gonads, they develop in the body, gametogenesis begin, and thereafter the process of sexual reproduction get initiated. And in between the breeding seasons, the testes and ovaries, which are known as gonads in case sexually reproducing animals, they remain undeveloped, and process of spermatogenesis or sperm formation and process of oogenesis or egg formation gets suspended. And again, on acquisition of favorable season, these gonads get activated and process of gamete formation and sexual reproduction begins again. But in case of continuous breeders, the reproduction can take place after attainment of puberty or adult stage at any time of the year. That is, once the puberty is achieved, the reproduction can take place thereafter at any time. So therefore, these animals, they are referred as a continuous breeders. They may be called as permanent breeders as well. And in this case, we can cite the example of human beings. Then one of the stage in the life of sexually reproducing animals is senescence, which is also characterized with the deterioration in the functioning of the various organ systems and parts of the body. This is the last phase of the lifespan and it ends the reproductive phase as well. In case of the plants, we can also see the senescence when the flowers undergoes withering after the process of sexual reproduction is over. And during this concomitant stages, that takes place in the senescence phase, that is a slowing of basal metabolic rate. It invites the next part of the life, and that is known as death or natural death. Then this senescence in case of plants and animals is controlled by certain hormones, and not only the senescence stage but also the juvenile stage, reproductive stage. They are also controlled by the specific categories of the hormones which are liberated in the body in a particular time. Then if we classify the various events or stages in the sexual reproduction in the higher plants as well as animals, these events or stages can be classified into the three main categories. One is called as a pre-fertilization stage, second is the fertilization stage, and the third one is known as post-fertilization stage. Pre-fertilization changes or stage includes the process of gamete formation or gametogenesis and process of gamete transfer. And when the gametes they unite, they may lead to the formation of the zygote. The union of gametes is referred with the name of fertilization. After the formation of zygote, the zygote starts developing into the young one, and this happens during the post-fertilization stage. It means that the sexual reproduction is basically having the three stages in the life of plants or animals. One is a pre-fertilization stage, which is a preparatory stage for the sexual reproduction. Second is a fertilization, that is a peak stage of sexual reproduction. And the third one is a post-fertilization, that is the post-sexual changes within the body. They are included in the post-fertilization stage. The pre-fertilization events you may see in the PowerPoint diagram. There is a picture of spermatozoon as well as the ovum. And this is the ovum of the human beings, and this is a sperm of the human species also. And you may see these two are the haploid gametes which later on unite to form the zygote, and zygote is responsible for development of new individual in the sexual reproduction. And in case of plants as well as in case of lower plants like algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes, the gametes which are formed, they may be similar and they may be referred as isogametes. You may see in the second picture, there are the two biflagellated gametes. They are morphologically and physiologically similar. These two gametes are referred as isogametes. And their union is referred with the name of isogamy. Isogamy has been reported in the certain group of algae. But in case of the hair plants, the pollen grain as well as the ovule, they are different in their morphology as well as in their physiology. So you may see, I have cited the example for the isogametes or homogametes. The example is in front of you, that is a cladophora. In case of cladophora, which is a green alga, isogamy takes place because the gametes which are formed, they are having the same morphology and same functionality or physiology. And in case of algae, which is called as fucus, which is one of the category of brown algae. Heterogametes are formed. That is, the gametes which are there, they are of different morphology and they are of different functionality. That is, gametes, they vary in their shape, size, as well as function. And in case of Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens is the geological name for human species. In case of the Homo sapiens also, we have the different types of the gametes. That is, the gametes, they are varying in their morphology as well as the functionality. Sperm, which is a male gamete, it is microscopic and elongated, whereas the female gamete, which is called as an egg or ovum, it is larger in size and it is laden with the food material. Egg is non-motile in case of majority of the animals, whereas the sperm is the motile gamete. Then further, on the basis of sexuality, the animals are of two different categories. One group of animals are referred as bisexual animals. Bisexual animals are also known as hermaphrodite animals. They may be also referred with the name of monoecious animals. I have cited the three important terms for bisexuality. Bisexuality is shown by bisexual animals or monoecious animals or hermaphrodite animals. These three terms are, synonymous of each other. And in case of bisexual animals, both kind of the sex organs, that is the testes as well as the ovaries, they appear in the same individual. And therefore, male as well as the female gamete may be formed by uh, both of these two gametes are formed by the same individual. And in case of plants, we can also see bisexuality in majority of the flowering plants. Majority of flowering plants, keep in mind, 80% of flowering plants, they show the bisexuality. Only less than 20% of plants, they show unisexuality. And the bisexual plants we have, for example, hibiscus, which is commonly called as China rose, pisum, which is commonly called as a pea. Likewise, we can give the example of guava, we can give the example of pineapple, etc. All of these, they are bisexual. And in case of plants, which possess only one kind of flowers, that is either the male flowers are there or female flowers are there, they are called as a unisexual plants. And the male flower is also known as a staminate flower because it bears stamens or male sex organs. And if the flower is having the female sex organs, which are known as gynoecium or pistil, then we can say again the flower is unisexual, or it may be called as pistillate flower or female flower. And in case of plants, I have already stated, which bear both the categories of flowers, they are called as a monoecious plants. For example, cucurbits as well as a coconut. Cucurbit is a single plant which bear male flowers as well as a female flower separately on different branches. This is called as monoecious plant. And the same case has been cited in case of coconut and date palm. And in case of animals, which shows the bisexuality, which are having both the kinds of the sex organs within the same animal, they are also known as hermaphrodite animal. And we can cite the example of earthworm. Earthworm is bisexual. It is having both testes as well as the ovaries within the same animal. Likewise, the leech, which is also belonging to the same group of earthworm, it is also bisexual in nature. Likewise, sponge, it is bisexual. It is having the testes and ovaries within it. Tapeworm, which is a parasite, it is also bisexual. Then the animals which are having only one kind of the sex organs, they are called as unisexual animals. Or the plants which are having only one kind of sex organs, they are called as the unisexual plants. And these individuals are also referred with the term dioecious. These are also called as a dioecious. We can give the examples such as papaya and date palm in case of plant species. And in case of animal group, we can cite the example like human beings, cockroach, then fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. All of these, they are the unisexual animals. And in case of the fungi, both bisexuality as well as a unisexuality may be reported in the different species. Then, during the formation of gametes, meiosis takes place. And meiosis is the characteristic of sexual reproduction. That is, I want to say, during the process of gamete formation or gametogenesis, which is the first stage in the sexual reproduction, meiosis is one of the necessary steps. Meiosis is also known as a reductional division, and it may lead to reduction in the chromosome number within the gametes. And these gametes thereafter they fuse and again maintain the normal chromosome complement of the species. In case of the human beings, we have 46 chromosome in the diploid cells, that is in the normal cells or in the cells of testes as well as ovaries. But in the gametes, due to the meiosis, only 23 chromosome left. I want to say sperm is having 23 chromosome and egg is also having the 23 chromosome. And thereafter, when the sperm and egg they unite, again the 46 chromosome complement is maintained in the human species. Likewise, if I also cite the example for a housefly is having the 12 chromosome in the somatic cells as well as in the cells of testes as well as ovaries. And at the time of gamete formation, only 6 chromosomes they remain in the sperm or in the egg of housefly. And thereafter, the sperm, which is having the 6 chromosome, and egg, which is having the 6 chromosome, they unite during the act of fertilization, and finally, the zygote is formed, which is again maintaining the chromosome number up to 12. And this zygote later on develops into the adult animal by the process of growth and development. Then the next stage is the gamete transfer after the formation of the gametes. And generally, on the basis of the gamete transfer, we can say external fertilization may be there or internal fertilization may be there. In the animals and plants, which shows external fertilization, the gametes they are shed to the outer medium and with the help of some agency, they are carried towards one another and finally they will fuse to form the zygote. But in case of the animals which shows the internal fertilization, the male gametes, they are liberated in the body of the female and it is carried through the gonoducts or sexual ducts nearer to the ovum and finally the union will lead to the formation of zygotes. As we report in case of human beings, in the human beings, in the act of sexual reproduction, the sperms they are liberated in the female reproductive tract and these sperms they are chemically attracted to the surface of the ovum. They reach to the ovum automatically and they fuse within the body of the female and zygote get resulted. The process is called as internal fertilization. And in case of the plants, for the purpose of gamete transfer, the pollination may be there. The phenomenon which is called as a pollination is there. And pollination basically carries the male gamete or the pollen by the various agencies to the surface of gynoecium and thereafter the process of fertilization begins. So you may see there are the two different categories of plants we have on the basis of gamete transfer. One are called as self-pollinating flowers and second are known as a cross-pollinating flowers. In case of self-pollinating flowers, the pollen grain or male gamete, they dust the pistil of the same flower. They are capable to fertilize the ovum of the same flower. Whereas in case of the cross-pollinating flowers, the pollen grains they are carried from the stamens by means of some agencies like wind or by means of insects or by means of some other animal or water and it is carried to the stigma part, the gynoecium of some other flower but belonging to the same plant species and thereafter the pollination get accomplished. And after the act of sexual reproduction, I have already told to you the structure which is formed, that is called as zygote. And the zygote is a single celled diploid structure which is formed by the union of male as well as the female gametes, and it mixes the chromosomes of male as well as the female individuals with each other, and it may lead to the beginning of journey of multicellular animal. And in case of animals which shows the external fertilization, we can cite the example of frog. The frog basically lays the eggs into the water, and likewise the sperms, they are also liberated into the water, and the fertilization takes place within the water. In case of fishes, external fertilization is there, but in case of the birds, internal fertilization takes place. And during internal fertilization, the gametes, they are shed within the body of the female, and finally the fertilization is there inside the body of the female. The zygote, which is formed after the process of fertilization, now undergo divisions and get changed into multicellular ball-like structure, which is called as early embryo. And early embryo later on develop into the embryo, or it may develop into the young one, and finally the process of formation of young one gets completed. The process of formation of embryo from the zygote is referred with the name of embryogenesis. And on the basis of zygote development, animals are further are of two types. One are called as oviparous, second are called as viviparous. In case of the oviparous animals, the eggs they are laid to the outside, whereas in case of viviparous animals, they give birth to the young ones. That is, oviparous animals are those which lay egg, but they don't give birth to the young one. But the viviparous animals are those which give birth to the young one. Birds, then reptiles, fishes, invertebrates, all of these are oviparous. But the mammals, including the human beings, they are viviparous. And you may see the pictures of oviparous as well as the viviparous animals. Oviparous birds, the animals which lay the eggs, and viviparous are those animals which give birth to the young ones. Thank you so much. If you have any query, you may post your query.